Death did not arrive the way I imagined it would. There was no sense of closure, no inner voice telling me to get ready. One moment I was thinking about ordinary things, unfinished plans, small worries, tomorrow, and the next my body simply failed. The strength drained out of me without a negotiation. My breath disappeared, my chest tightened, and the world began to dim. Voices surrounded me, but they felt distant, as if they belonged to another place. I tried to respond, to move, to signal that I was still there, but my body had already shut me out. Fear never fully formed. What replaced it was something colder and more unsettling. The realization that this was happening whether I was ready or not. Then I felt myself separate. It wasn't dramatic. It wasn't painful. It was decisive. I was suddenly above my body, watching people rush around a lifeless form that looked like me but no longer felt connected to who I was. What shocked me wasn't seeing my own death. It was how quickly everything I depended on in life lost its importance. My routines, my beliefs about myself, my assumptions about time, all of it dissolved in seconds. Time unraveled. The room faded. Sound collapsed into silence, and I was drawn into a darkness that felt thick, aware, and intentional. I wasn't falling or standing. I simply existed, suspended in something far greater than myself. And for the first time, a question rose inside me that terrified me. What if I had misunderstood what it means to be ready? The darkness did not accuse me. It exposed me. My life rose up all at once, not as memories, but as truth. I did not see what I had done. I felt why I had done it. Every delay, every excuse, every moment I assumed there would be more time. I saw how often I confused knowledge with obedience, how I believed that understanding truth was the same as living it, how I postponed change because I thought tomorrow was guaranteed. I felt the weight of every warning I took lightly, and every conviction I silenced. There was no comparison to others here, no measuring myself against worse people. Only alignment. The darkness around me felt familiar, and that realization frightened me more than anything else. It was as if this place recognized the direction of my life long before I ever did. Then the darkness shifted. A presence entered that space, and everything responded. A light appeared, not sudden, not harsh, but absolute in its clarity. It did not erase the darkness. It revealed it. And standing within that light, I knew who it was before I could even see clearly. Jesus. Jesus did not smile. His presence was overwhelming, not because of anger, but because of holiness. I felt completely exposed, stripped of every identity I had used to reassure myself in life. Standing before him, I understood something devastating. Death does not change who you are. It reveals who you became. I tried to speak, but words failed me. I had nothing to defend myself with. Then Jesus spoke. Most people are unprepared, he said, because they confuse time with permission. Those words struck me deeply. He showed me moments from my life, not to shame me, but to explain me. Times when I knew what was right and delayed it. Times when I treated grace like a cushion instead of a rescue. Times when I believed that believing was enough, while my life remained unchanged. They think later will come, Jesus continued. They think awareness equals readiness. I understood then that knowing about God is not the same as surrendering to Him. That familiarity with truth can become a substitute for obedience. That people feel safe because they are informed. not transformed. You planned for death as an event, he said, not as a certainty. The weight of those words crushed me. I felt a pull behind me, slow, steady, unavoidable, not punishment, direction. I understood then that judgment is not about a final decision made by God in anger, but about a destination chosen gradually by life. The darkness behind me opened, and what I sensed there terrified me more than pain ever could. It was awareness without escape. Souls who had assumed readiness because they were familiar with truth but never surrendered to it. Regret that did not come from ignorance but from delay. I cried out, desperate, Lord, I believe. I believe now. Jesus answered immediately. Belief without surrender does not prepare a soul. Those words shattered me. I understood then why most people are unprepared for death. Not because they reject God outright, but because they postpone Him. They live as if eternity will wait for them to finish living on their own terms. I felt myself nearing a boundary I could not see but knew was final. Then everything stopped. The pull froze. The darkness recoiled. Jesus stepped forward and stood between me and what waited behind me. You will return, he said. Hope surged until he finished. Not because you are ready, he said, but because you must warn them. The light collapsed inward, and I felt myself being torn away. Pain exploded into my chest as air slammed back into my lungs. My body convulsed violently. Sound rushed back, voices, alarms, chaos overwhelming my senses. I gasped. I was alive, but I did not return relieved. I returned awakened. I understood now why most people are unprepared for death. They are not evil. They are distracted. They are not ignorant. They are delayed. They assume time will always be available for repentance, surrender, and change. It won't. If you are hearing this, please listen carefully. I believed I was ready because I knew the truth. I was wrong. Readiness is not about knowledge. It is about alignment. Grace is real. Mercy is real. Jesus is real. But tomorrow is not promised. Eternity is not decided after death. It is revealed there. Please, don't wait. Coming back to life did not feel like a victory. It felt like being returned to a place that suddenly felt fragile, temporary, and dangerously loud. The room around me was filled with movement and noise, but none of it felt real the way eternity had felt real. I was breathing again. My heart was beating again, but something inside me had shifted permanently. I had seen what does not end, and nothing on earth compares to that knowledge. For days I moved through life like a stranger. Conversations felt shallow. Arguments felt meaningless. People spoke about plans years into the future, and all I could think was how confident we are about time we do not control. I watched people rush, worry, chase, complain, and I recognized myself in all of it. That frightened me, because I realized how easily I could forget. Eternity does not shout to be remembered. Life does an excellent job of drowning it out. Noise returns quickly. Distractions return easily. The world does not pause just because you have seen forever. It keeps moving, pulling you back into urgency that does not matter. But I could not unsee what I had seen. I knew now that eternity is not waiting at the end of life like a door we casually open. It is already pressing against every moment, already closer than breath. Every choice suddenly felt heavier, not because I was afraid, but because I understood permanence. Some nights I still wake up with that awareness pressing against me. Not fear, wait. The understanding that this life is not rehearsal, that what we aim our hearts toward now quietly shapes where we are headed later. I used to think eternity was a belief. I was wrong. It is a direction. If you are hearing this, please understand. You do not need to die to realize eternity is real. I thought I needed proof. I thought it would be obvious when it mattered. It wasn't. It arrived quietly, suddenly, without asking if I was ready. Eternity became real to me when time stopped being generous. That is why I speak now, because once eternity becomes real, you do not fear death. You fear wasting life. Eternity is not decided after death. It is revealed there. And once you know that, you never live the same way again. Please, don't wait. I tried at first to keep it to myself. I told myself that what I experienced was personal, that not everyone needed to hear it, that people would think I was exaggerating or chasing attention. I told myself silence would be easier, and it was, at least on the surface. But silence became unbearable, because once you understand eternity, you start seeing how casually people walk toward it. You notice how confidently we speak about tomorrow, how easily we postpone what matters, how quickly we dismiss the weight of our own souls. I recognize the same patterns I once lived by, and I knew where they lead. That knowledge doesn't let you rest. I realize something that still shakes me. Eternity does not need our belief to be real. It does not wait for agreement. It does not pause for comfort. It simply approaches, quietly, steadily, without announcement. Most people aren't unprepared because they are evil. They are unprepared because they are busy, busy filling time instead of facing it, busy improving life instead of examining direction, busy assuming there will always be more room to change later. I thought the same way. I believed that awareness was enough, that being thoughtful, kind, and reflective meant I was aligned. But eternity doesn't respond to intentions. It responds to direction. That is what Jesus showed me without saying it outright. Your life is always moving somewhere, even now. I used to fear judgment because I imagined it as anger. I was wrong. Judgment is clarity. It is seeing without distortion where your choices have been pointing all along. That is why it is so quiet. There is nothing left to argue once truth is fully visible. Some nights I feel the weight of this knowledge pressing on me again, and I understand why I was sent back. Not to scare people, but to interrupt them. To slow them down long enough to consider what they are aiming their lives toward. If you are listening to this, I don't believe it's random. I don't believe moments like this happen by accident. You may not feel afraid. You may not feel convicted. You may even feel calm. I felt calm too, right up until time stopped cooperating with me. Eternity didn't become real when I wanted it to. It became real when time ran out. That is why I speak now, even when it's uncomfortable, even when it would be easier to stay quiet. Because once you see forever, silence feels like betrayal. Eternity is not waiting for the end of your life to matter. It already matters now. And the most dangerous thing we can do is assume we will recognize the moment when it's time to take it seriously. Please, don't wait.